Donald Trump's team has insulted Puerto Ricans and now they're mad. The other day during the Madison Square Garden Klan rally, since that's what it is, let's be so for real, the comedian Tony Hindcliffe described Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage, which is pretty bad, but, comparatively speaking, way nicer than other things said about other groups of people, usually non-white, but sometimes their own if they're like gay, disabled, Overwatch players, I wish, or something else. He describes it as a joke, but it's really not. One, at least make it funny and not just offensive just for being offensive. Honestly, I'm a big fan of I'm not gonna say I'm a big fan of racist jokes, but I like racist jokes. But the thing is, when you're making those types of jokes or just offensive jokes, one, you have to make sure that they're funny, and two, there should also be some sort of cultural understanding and nuance to the joke instead of just being slur, derogatory term, blah, 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 blah. We're just trying to be edgy and funny and cool, just like an Instagram comment section, Like, if someone's gonna make a joke about black people, maybe if they made a joke about, like, being late and usually not being on time, or something else at least a little bit creative like that, instead of just monkey, spear chucker, blah blah blah, shoot guns, then I would laugh, then a good chunk of us, most of us, will laugh as well. But a lot of these people just don't get it at all for some reason. And shit, out of even just Latinos, that's probably the nicest thing that he's ever said about any of them, describing Mexicans as illegal drug rapists, because obviously I can't see the actual word, and Central Americans and Central American asylum seekers as illegal drug dealers that have nothing good to bring to this country. Now we all know Trump and his team are very known for saying a lot of, let's say, interesting things, since even before he started running for president around 2015. And I find it really interesting that Puerto Ricans only really got offended now after they were explicitly mentioned. I think that's kind of crazy. When he called for the death of the Central Park Five, a group of black and I think one or two Hispanic guys that were incorrectly charged and sent to prison for at least 5 to 10 years for assaulting and murdering a white woman that they were completely proven innocent for, put out an ad in the newspaper calling for their death, called all black people thugs, Muslims terrorists, called Haitian immigrants dog and cat eaters, all Mexicans drug dealers, Central Americans threats to the society, Nazis, fine people on both sides, comment, also wanting to remove anti-discrimination policies for the alphabet mafia, LGBTQ, wanting to remove DEI, which of course greatly also helps out Latinos as well as black people, making it as difficult as possible for Puerto Ricans to get help after the 2017 hurricane. And a massive list of other fucked up things that he did. I could keep this video going on and on and on. So when Trump and his team say all this stuff about different groups of people, you have the cognitive dissonance to think, oh yeah, all that is perfectly fine. As long as they're not talking about me specifically and my group of people, it's perfectly fine since they're not coming for us next. The Trump team loves Puerto Ricans for sure. Okay, let's propose a hypothetical situation. Let's say my name is Bob and I like fruits, right? Let's say, and have all these fruits laid out on the table. Say I start off with the cantaloupe, I finish the cantaloupe, then I move on to the kiwis, and then the green grapes, and then I take a break, and then I go to the strawberries, and then the red grapes. Do you think that Bob isn't going to eat the apples as well if he ate the rest of those fruits? And it's already been established that he likes fruits? No,
He's gonna eat the green apples because they taste good and they are what he likes. Simple.
Exactly. You know, Bob's gonna start munching on those green apples like it's 2008 Megan Fox or A. Marie. Well, I'm starting to salivate at the mouth just thinking of 2008 Megan Fox or A. Marie. All right. Anyway, back to business. Now, for a second, you know, let's ignore how anti-blackness is ingrained in damn near every culture. Shit, even some of our own cultures. If you're Puerto Rican, Latino, and you see people of a different race saying that they hate Mexicans, how deep up your own ass must your head be in order to think that they're not talking about you too? Is that not crazy? They think you're all Mexican, bro. They don't see a difference. They think you're all Mexican. It makes absolutely no difference to them whatever country you're from. You're all the same in their eyes. And you know this. This is honestly the most active I've ever seen them as a whole be anti-Trump. Especially, you know, personal friends and acquaintances that I have on social media have never posted a goddamn thing about politics in their life until now. Even that I've known since 2015, 2016, 2017. Even all the Puerto Rican celebrities that have also never / rarely said a single goddamn thing about politics are condemning Trump now after the MSG rally. And now everyone's all over it, you know, we hate Trump, Trump's a bad guy, go get a better toupee. Bad Bunny, Aubrey Plaza, who's, I think her grandma is Puerto Rican, so she's a quarter Puerto Rican. Jennifer Lopez, Mark Anthony, Ricky Martin, Nicky Jam, who especially said that he was going to vote for Trump before those comments were made. Okay, now let's take a little step back, right? So, there was a picture on Twitter that blew up the other day about 2 white women lesbians that voted for Trump. You know, as we all know, the right side, the Republicans and conservatives, are basically pretty much against LGBT. But in their case, at least they still have their whiteness to fall back on. You're Puerto Rican. You have nothing to fall back on, brother. You're not white. So what's even the point? Professor Antios here, teaching swag at Rule 34 University. Let me cook. Here in academia, we have a term for this. It's called group favoritism. Believe me, you know, I looked it up on ChatGPT. In group favoritism, it's defined as people prioritizing their own interests of people within their specific group over people outside of it, even if they share a lot of similar characteristics. You know, now we all know that this can be synonymized as a few other different words, like selfish, dickheadish, pee-pee face, and so forth, as we all say in academia as well. Now, you know, when we get a little bit deeper into it, no diddy, we'll look at how Mr. Orange treats his own employees. Oh wait, actually, there's a new study. Kyle Lowry Big Booty Donald Trump is absolutely notorious for refusing to pay his contractors and treating his own supporters like shit. There are 60 plus lawsuits of him being sued for not paying these contractors after building several of his different properties. Now for the blue collars, which Latinos are the majority of in the United States, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2017, exactly 57% versus Asian, which is 30%, Black, which is 45.8%, and they took their jobs, coming in at 37.6%. Now, keep in mind, we included the service industry as blue collar. Although service jobs aren't exactly blue collar, the jobs it contains has a much bigger overlap with blue collar jobs than, you know, management, office jobs, and other stuff like that, for simplicity's sake. Now, since we established that more Latinos in the U.S. tend to be blue collar much more than everyone else, let's talk about why blue collars tend to be Republican and conservative. Long story short, it mostly starts with Theodore Roosevelt's New Deal back in the 30s and 40s. Holy shit, I haven't even touched that topic in school since like 8th grade. I feel so old. Holy. Unk status is finally kicking in. Now, if you don't remember what it is, because I obviously didn't either until yesterday when I was writing the script for this, it's basically a bunch of public works that they did by building a bunch of new public parks for people, playgrounds for kids, roads, bridges, and stuff like that. Which, as you could imagine, was obviously worked on by blue collars, And fast forward to the 60s and 70s, Democrats starting moving away from things like work interests and work rights to more civil rights and social justice type shit, as you can imagine, based on what was going on at the time, versus Republicans who focus a little bit more on laissez-faire government, lower taxes, blah, 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 yep, which undoubtedly resonates more with blue-collar workers, except black ones, I might add, because obviously that's an intersectionality that did not benefit black people at the time, as you could imagine. And pretty much about then, and since then, it's pretty much been mostly the same, if not for a handful of changes here and there. And how exactly does Donnie show his support to these lovely blue-collar workers that keep our America functioning and running as it should be? There are a few ways to show he doesn't give a single flying fuck about them. But, let's talk about the main way. By wanting to mass deport illegal immigrants. And when you take a look at it and use the internet to look stuff up the right way, you'll come to find that the vast majority of these illegal immigrants are working in agriculture. Now, this is really funny because one of their main campaign platforms this term is lowering the prices of most items. Crazy. So, when you go back to a very, very, very simple understanding of economics, you go back to supply and demand. If the people making the supplies go away, thereby greatly decreasing the amount of output for those supplies in demand, what do you think happens to prices? They skyrocket even more than they already did. You see what I'm picking up and putting down? The failed billionaire and failed businessman doesn't even understand how the fuck supply and demand works. Do you really think that someone like that is really gonna work in your best interest? Really? Now, on top of that as well, he still has no idea how he's even gonna mass deport them in the first place. And on from this, with his own fans leaving them stranded in a hot desert after the Coachella rally and keeping them waiting in the Michigan rally for 3 hours, along with not being able to go back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, because he owes them money for the last rally he did there and didn't pay them for. And then the same thing back in Omaha, Nebraska back in 2020 and left him in the freezing cold. Just a few of the examples. Just to talk about how he treats his big, diehard supporters that'll empty their bank accounts for him at a moment's notice. If he treats those people that spend hundreds, if not thousands, of their hard-earned salary from the usual middle class, if not lower middle class, that try and see him at his rallies way, way more often than not white, along with risking their own life for him, in jail time, of course, by doing the coup on January 6th, like garbage, how do you think he's going to treat you